Life's tough
when you're in PC.
Life's rough
When you depend on me
to give you
weapons,
items,
armor,
information for your journey, and still you still machine and try to hurt me. Life's tough
when you're in PC.
Life's rough.
When you
Have you ever been forced to work with somebody that you don't like? Maybe you all have a past. Maybe the last time that you worked together, things didn't exactly go so well. Maybe things got royally screwed. Maybe it was their fault. Maybe it was your fault. Wouldn't you like an entire game based around that premise? Well, good thing that Grant Howitt over at Look Robot has come up with a game that can satisfy all your irritated working needs. Okay, maybe that's a little harsh of an opening. The game we are looking at today is less just working with people that you aren't a fan of, and more about doing one last job with your former teammates to get one last score. The game, One Last Job, is a game that is much more akin to something like The Usual Suspects or The Italian Job, where our intrepid storyteller takes us on the role of the boss, who has assembled a crack team of professionals for one last job. Sadly, the last time they were on the job, whatever it may have been, they all got completely screwed over. The plan went completely tits up. So now, you have to find a way to work together one last time while the tension of last time looms over your head. It's one of the most popular storytelling devices in heist stories. Things like, well, The Italian Job, as we mentioned before. The disenfranchised group gets together for one last rodeo before they all hang it up. It's certainly a more narrow focus sort of story, but it definitely has a lot of potential and can build a lot of tension whenever it comes to the storytelling elements. One Last Job comes to us from the mind of Grant Howitt. For those of you who are a fan of the web series Critical Role, Matt Mercer and company spotlighted a game made by Howitt called Goblin Quest as a bonus episode. This isn't the only game by Howitt. As a matter of fact, he has 18 games under his belt, each of which tends to focus on specific situations and intriguing storytelling. One Last Job finds itself in very prestigious company for current gaming out there right now, which includes Goblin Quest, as well as Royal Blood, Golden Seas, Unbound, and so forth. So where does it stack up with the others? Well, that remains to be seen. I think the one major praise that I can give all of Grant Howitt's games is that they are creative in storytelling and gameplay. Some are more cheeky, that include only 2 comically named stats to handle situations. Others use dice, others use decks of cards, and so forth. One Last Job is no exception. It is a game based on grit and spending grit similar to the Gunslinger class championed by Matthew Mercer. You have 2 types of actions: push, on which you move forward, or in moving action so to speak, where you can kind of solve problems and whatnot, and hold them off, which is a little bit more of making the scene less dangerous, dealing with baddies and so forth. The game is quite simple. It only takes about 4 pages out of the 33 to explain how to play the game, and it's mainly just a matter of rolling and re-rolling and collecting for your dice pool, and rolling against the boss or the game master against one of the players. The rest of it really is about getting you introduced into the mythos and getting you really into how you create characters together instead of on your own. The game is simple in its endeavors and presents a very narrow narrative to work in. The game itself offers 6 different stories that you could potentially use for the game, or to make up your own, which spans, well, heists, cyberpunk, Wild West, and so forth. Since the characters in the games are all connected due to a previous job gone bad, it's imperative to make sure that all characters are in sync with their storytelling before carrying on. Usually character creation and scene creation is less of the traditional way of being and more of a 3 or however many players you have determining what the past was and where the present is going to go. That is pretty much the game told in a couple of paragraphs. The book is only 33 pages long, and most of it is actually getting you more immersed into the story that's about to be told. And then the other, I'd say about 1/3 is the character creation, the actual dice mechanics, as well as the character sheet. But how does this game stack up? Well, there's praise and critique aplenty. From a positive standpoint, I can definitely say that the game is unique, and it is certainly concocted from the mind of a man who loves gaming. Just like other games from Howitt, One Last Job explores the ideas of role-playing games, and then bends and breaks the various aspects of what is popular and what is common as far as the rules are concerned. The story premise itself may be a little closed off. After all, it has to focus on a very specific past going into a very specific present. However, it is quite modular, as the game suggests with later on various scenarios that you could run, so at least it doesn't feel stale. It always feels fresh, and it feels like you're telling a new story each time that you use it. The game system is also great as well. It fosters role-playing. It isn't about the numbers, but there is still enough there to mediate storytelling to let you know who are the winners and who are the losers, which is also a major plus. On the negative side of things, I think that the biggest problem with One Last Job is the fact that it is a Grant Howitt game and in league with so many other great games from this guy's mind. I liken it to a Quentin Tarantino movie and the various movies in his oeuvre. On their own, movies like Jackie Brown and The Hateful Eight are fine, they're great. However, when compared to movies like Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction, and Reservoir Dogs, the movies seem to fall a little bit flat whenever their company is so stellar. I find myself in a similar situation to One Last Job. I freely admit that if this were not done by Grant Howitt, I might see this game in a different light. But due to the fact that Grant Howitt did make this game, due to the fact that Goblin Quest, a fantastic game that I look forward to spotlighting in the future, as well as other games from him, are out there, the flaws and the problems of One Last Job become just so much more apparent. Well, for instance, the source material is, well, how should I say it, somewhat dated. Heist stories and One Last Job narratives have been on a downward spiral since the 2000s, and I can't think of one in recent memory that sparks any sort of feelings in me, or really anything that is memorable, or will be remembered in history. I mean, the last one that I can really think of was the remake of The Italian Job with Mark Wahlberg, and that movie often finds itself in the, buy one, get 10 free $5 bin at Walmart. The entire genre seems to be on a steady plateau, which makes it less attractive than some of Howitt's other games. If this were created in the 90s, whenever RPGs were booming and The Usual Suspects came out, and then Ocean's 11 came out a few years later, I could have seen this going over a lot differently. But now, I don't know, I just feel kind of meh about it. And as much as the game stresses storytelling, which I do enjoy, I'm also still not the biggest fan of putting character creation in the hands of others, especially if you are not playing with people that you know well. A character from someone else can easily be fucked by one problem player, or someone with a power trip. The game also has a very negative air about it, which is a problem. The whole game is based on negative tension. You all hate each other due to the fact that the last time that you were on the job together, things went horrifically. And this is really, it's not so much a problem whenever you have everybody who's kind of on the same page, but if you have a friend who really cannot separate their character and their player, that's whenever problems come, because then you get a lot of hurt feelings, then you get a lot of negative emotions, you get a lot of shouting, yelling. It becomes no longer fun for anyone because everyone is now upset because one or two people definitely have their feelings hurt. The system itself is also fine, but when compared to some of Howitt's other stuff, it simply just doesn't hold up. All things considered, Howitt is amazing with his mechanics and his systems, with card mechanics, with the things that are in Goblin Quest, others such as that. And so whenever you just simply have a dice collector roll and re-roll system, it just doesn't feel as unique as the other ones that he's come up with in the past. At the end of the day, this game is straddling the critter miss line, a line that has gotten me in trouble in the past, but for this one I feel very confident with how this one's going to go. I think that this game is a miss, but just barely. The game is fine, it's not the worst ever, but it's certainly not exactly memorable. And the elements that are there aren't exactly enough to push it into the crit category. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. Become my patron on Patreon. And also, please come back next week for the Clan Book Retrospective Tremere.